Okay, so this is the organize and analyze OSM data with PostGIS and QGIS. We started the recording a little bit late, but I'll just talk a little bit about myself. I want to just share some fun Phoenix facts because I'm kind of giving people some time to get caught up and get the documents open and everything. But uh, Phoenix was almost named Pumpkinville, which is pretty fun. I like the name Phoenix, but I would love to live in a place called Pumpkinville, and I actually live here in Phoenix. It is the home to the largest municipal park in the United States, which is called South Mountain. And it was originally settled by the Hohokam people who built a very impressive canal system to get water to their crops in this extremely dry environment. And we actually built modern canals, like you see in this photo here, over the canals that they built. And this kind of ties into what we're talking about in this workshop. So we're going to be looking at some water-related stuff. It's also the fifth largest city in the US. And if you know anything about Phoenix, you know that Phoenix is very hot and it's getting hotter. One thing that I've been thinking about is who has access to public pools in Phoenix? Because it is essential that people are able to cool off in the summertime. Not everyone has a pool. I've been mapping a lot of pools lately. There's a lot of pools in Phoenix, but a lot of people don't have them. So we need access to public pools. So I was wondering how many people actually have a public pool within walking distance of their home. Well, luckily, we can answer this question using geographic data, including data from OpenStreetMap. So I want you to just take a guess here. Another poll. If you already have the Slido open, you should be able to just answer this question. Otherwise, scan this QR code or join at that site and just guess how many Phoenix residents. There's about 1.6 million Phoenix residents. How many do you think live within half a mile or kind of a reasonable walking distance of a public pool? See what these numbers look like. All right, a lot of people saying less than 10%, 10 to 25%. So it looks like we're guessing on the low end here. All right. So yeah, just keep that guess in mind because by the end of this, hopefully we'll get to the point where we'll be able to figure that out. So this is going to we're going to have to deal with a whole bunch of different data. And again, the question is what percentage of Phoenix residents live within half a mile of a public pool? Well, what kind of data would we need to answer this kind of question? Number one, we need all of the Phoenix pools that are available to people. That's a great use of OpenStreetMap data. We can go to OpenStreetMap and we can actually download all of the pools in Phoenix. Well, I know, since I live in Phoenix, that if we're dealing with public pools, all of these pools are in public parks. So a nice way to figure out, because most of the pools, they're just going to have a tag that says swimming pool, leisure equals swimming pool. Well, is that a public pool? Is it a private pool? Who knows? But if we can narrow it down to just the pools that are within public parks, then we can actually figure out how many of these are public pools. Then we also are asking a question about how many people live within a reasonable distance. So that is going to be population data. Great source for population data is the US Census Bureau. Well, we have a problem here because we're going to have a lot of different data. And when I was kind of breaking this data down and making it in a more manageable format, I ended up with a shapefile that had 100 and some thousand different features in it, and it was taking forever for it to load and to navigate on it. So a lot of times you have huge amounts of data, comes in different formats. And how do you get all of those different formats to work together and communicate with each other? So this is where the PostgreSQL database with the PostGIS or PostGIS extension works really well. And then combine that with QGIS, and it makes for a really nice way to handle all the data. So first of all, what we're dealing with here is something called SQL or SQL, that's structured query language. It is an easy to learn language for database management. Again, I started learning this maybe 6 months ago, and I'm no expert or anything, but I can, now I know enough to actually do some stuff with it, especially with the help of like an AI tool to help you with your queries. SQL is very good for large data sets, messy data, and lots of different formats. So you can work with GeoJSON, shapefiles, KML, which is like the Google standard, CSV tables, you name it, it can pretty much all be put into your SQL table. So with SQL, you can organize the data into tables and then create relationships between them. That's why it's really nice for geographic data, but we do need to extend it. So we're going to be using something called PostgreSQL, which is a free open source system, which is based on kind of the original SQL. And we're using a PostGIS extension, which gives Postgres spatial capability. So you can store geometry, points, lines, polygons. So in OSM language, we're talking about nodes and ways relations. And you can perform spatial operations. So things like which neighborhoods contain community centers, or what's the average distance from a bus stop to a public pool, or in line with the theme of this conference, which city has the most pizza joints per 1,000 people? Things like that can be asked and answered using PostGIS. And then we're going to be using QGIS, which is a free open source GIS system to manage, visualize, and analyze our geographic data. And the nice thing about it is PostGIS tables can be used as layers in QGIS. And when you edit the layer in QGIS, it automatically edits your table on the back end. Or if you make any changes to the table, it automatically updates them as the layer in QGIS. Totally interoperable. So again, I want to ask a question here to see where people are at in terms of experience. Have you ever used QGIS, PostgreSQL, or both? So, question here, the answers are, I have not used QGIS. I have some experience. I'm very experienced. Okay, so it looks like QGIS is fairly common. Some people have used both. All right. And then a good number of people haven't used either one. That's great. Okay. So a thing to keep in mind here is that I'm not doing a full rundown of how to use these tools, that we don't have time for that, but I am going to kind of give you a basic introduction to how these things work. And I'm going to try my best to explain them, simply and make sure that everybody is on board with, what you're learning today. So the rest of this is going to be sort of a follow along with me. I'm going to go try to go nice and slow, and please, I'll have the chat open. Please drop your help questions in the chat if you run into any problems. There's going to be lots of different computer issues and so on, maybe hopefully there's not, but if there is, I may not be able to answer every question that comes up, but we'll try to work through any troubleshooting issues that you have. So you need to go to that link. It's also in the little tab, this little notepad thing up here. Go to that link, open that document called Analyze OSM Data. Follow along with me on the screen. Please drop your questions in the chat. Let me know if you have problems. Again, this is a very, very brief intro. It is not a full course in these things. Okay, so I'm gonna now switch over to the document. Let me close that and bring the document over here so we're all going to be kind of on the same page. Make that a little bit smaller here. Okay. And I need to just move things around a bit. I need to open the chat so that I can make sure. Oh boy, how do I get to the chat from here? Here we go. Okay. All right, so I will keep an eye on that chat. If anybody sees something in the chat that I'm not responding to, please shout it out. Okay, so someone's getting an error at import. Is this a spatial? Okay, creation of, oh, please do not. We're way ahead of where we should be at this point, Tim. But we'll see if we can get to that. Okay, so I put this message in here because I didn't want people to jump ahead and start doing all the actual workshop stuff too early. So let's see. First things first, you should have the SQL shell software installed. That was part of the installation of the software that you did before. So I'm just going to open PSQL, which is also called SQL shell. I'm going to open that, and you're going to see what that looks like here. And it should already be set up. You should have already done these steps before. So I'm just going to hit enter 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And then, oh, CHP. Okay, I don't know what that message means. Hopefully that's not a problem. But then I need to enter my my password. Now you'll get a warning here. I don't know what this warning means. Don't ask me, but you should get to a point where you see the cursor here that says Postgres equals hashtag, or whatever you call that symbol. So can I see some thumbs up in the chat if you've gotten to this point? Thumbs down if you haven't gotten to this point. The chat should be down along the bottom there. You should just be at the command line screen here with nothing. We haven't done anything else. We've just basically all we've done is access the SQL server that you've already set up when you installed the software. Okay, so I'm getting a couple thumbs ups. All right. Okay, so it looks like we're at this point. So we are going to now create a database. You'll notice that some of these things are, like the create database command is all caps. You don't have to do all caps. That's like supposed to be the standard that you use. I don't usually bother with that, but any of these you can actually just copy and paste the commands directly in here. And don't worry if you are not used to using command line stuff. I'm not either. I'm not a big command line person. So this is the only thing we're going to do with the command line. So you should be able to click on Bronwyn. You should be able to just like click, and it looks like you're not entering the password. Yeah, that's something I forgot to mention. It looks like you're not entering anything, but once you hit enter, it will enter it. So hopefully you can just type directly into the screen, hit enter, and it will enter your password. Otherwise, I'm not really sure what that issue might be. So I'm going to go ahead and create this database called Mapping USA. And it says create database. That's confirmation that it actually has been created. So Akana, yes. So there were installation instructions. Okay, there were installation instructions for creating to start a server. So yeah, you will probably need to start that server. So if you're more advanced and know how to do that, please go ahead and do that. I was assuming people had didn't know how to use Postgres at all. So I'm going to now I have to create the PostGIS extension. So right now, all I've done is create a PostgreSQL server and then create a database within that server that's called Mapping USA, but it doesn't have any of the spatial features. So this step right now is going to allow for the spatial features to be enabled. So I hit create extension, takes a little bit, and then yes, the create extension command was completed. So now I have created a PostGIS database or PostGIS database. Yeah, thank you for helping each other out in the chat there, because some of these things I probably don't know enough to help out with. So if you get some kind of error here, it may be that you didn't install PostGIS during those installation instructions. So up here, you'll need to run Stack Builder. And Stack Builder, you choose command line tools and, or sorry, not I'm here. You need to go to spatial extensions and add the PostGIS bundle. And then you can actually create the PostGIS extension. I wish it was easier, but that's just the way it is. Okay, so we're done with the command line. Give me some thumbs up if you were able to create the Mapping USA database and create the PostGIS extension. So again, thumbs up in the chat if you were able to get this extension installed. Okay, looking good, looking good. So at least we've got a few people. I'm going to go ahead and close the command line tool. And now we're going to do kind of the fun stuff. That was just to get the database set up. Now I'm going to open QGIS, and hopefully you have the latest version of QGIS installed. If not, you will need to add the DB Manager plugin. It comes with the latest version, I noticed, but I had some older versions where I had to manually add it. Oh, sorry, okay, so the instructions. Bronwyn, do you have the document open? You can have the document open in another tab, but
Oh,
I will.
okay. It's in the document and the
Yes.
Google. Oh, okay. I'll find it
Yeah,
there then.
so I'm just following these instructions here. So let me get back to that. So we've just done the create a new SQL database and install PostGIS extend, all of that stuff. Um, so now we are at add DB manager. Let me just move this over a little bit. Oop, okay. So here, if I go up to plugins, manage and install plugins, I see that when I go to installed, I have DB Manager already installed right here. All right. So again, plugins, manage and install plugins. You should already have that. If you have the latest version of QGIS, you should have that installed. If not, you're going to need to go to all and search for DB Manager, and then you'll have an option down here to install plugin, but that's just for older versions of QGIS. Okay, so again, plugins on the main QGIS window. You may still be opening QGIS. It takes a little while to open, but I want you to open that QGIS. Have that open, ready to go. Okay, so now what we're going to do is connect to our database in QGIS. So okay, I'm looking at the chat here, Akana. Yeah, so when you set up your post, so try the username Postgres without the QL, just POST username Postgres. I'm gonna write that. So usually the default username is Postgres, and then you would have chosen your password for that. Okay. Again, yeah. So if it's a Linux issue, sorry, can't help you with that, but maybe we can communicate afterwards. So again, you can always follow along with what I'm doing. The instructions are there. The video is going to be available, and then troubleshoot later rather than trying to get bogged down in that stuff now. Okay, so I'm going to in QGIS, I'm going to open the I'm going to go to new, start a new project. So in QGIS, we're always working within projects. You're just going to see this blank screen, really nothing going on there. And over here on the left-hand side, you see the browser little window, I forget what you call these things, and then the layers down here. We're going to be working with both of those. And I want to go back to my instructions here. So I want to save my project. So you can click on the save, and then just in my documents, I have, you find a place where you want to save it. I have my OSM folder. I have my, oh, I thought I had a Mapping USA. Let me create a new Mapping USA folder. Say 2025. So again, you decide where you want to save this project, and I'm going to call this Phoenix Pools. And yeah, I like to do all, kind of like do the capital letters, all no spaces. It really doesn't matter. This is just the file name, but I'm going to save that as Phoenix Pools. I'm saving my project. Again, I went to project new, and then once I have a new project, I use the save button to save that project. Now I need to connect within this project. I need to connect to my PostgreSQL or PostGIS database. So the way I'm going to do that is right click. Oh, so over here in the browser, little browser window, I'm going to right click on PostgreSQL and choose new connection. Right click on PostgreSQL and choose new connection. Now, it's important that I get all the right information in here. I'm going to call this Mapping USA. The the cases don't matter or anything like that. Leave service blank. I think that's for if you have a cloud service. This is all on our local computer, so we're going to put in local host, and then it should be the default port 5432. Again, unless you chose something different, it should just be your default port there. And then the database, we called that database when we created it, Mapping USA. And this is where it's important that you don't misspell things like I almost did. You make sure that it's all lowercase. And in SQL, we like to use what they call snake case, where everything is lowercase, and then we use underscores for any blanks. SSL mode, we want to have that listed as prefer. Session role, we leave blank. And then we don't have to worry about clicking any of these buttons down here. Some of these can be useful for projects, but we're just not going to be that advanced right now. Then I'm going to hit OK. And it's prompting me for my username and password. So my username is going to be the same as what I put in to that to the command line. And then I have my own, I almost misspelled it. I have my own password here. All right. So enter your credentials, access, and my connection is good. How do I know that? Well, if I click the drop down here, I can see that I now have Mapping USA as one of my connections under PostgreSQL. Mapping USA is listed under PostgreSQL over here in my browser. Let me get some thumbs up or thumbs down. Are we at this point? Have we connected to our Mapping USA database in QGIS? Thumbs up or thumbs down? All righty. Good, good, good. I'm seeing lots of thumbs, lots of thumbs. That's what I like to see. Okay. Beautiful thumbs, everybody. All right. Now we have, yeah, I understand Bronwyn, but maybe we can, troubleshoot that later. Okay, so we are now going to insert some data into our Mapping USA database. I have provided you with some of the data, and then we are going to work together to get some of the other data that we will need. So you need to go to that Mapping USA 2025 Google Drive folder. That is the link up here in this little notepad thing that's stuck up here. I will also put the link in the chat for anybody who is not already on that. Let me just grab that real quick. I've got too many things going on here. Oh, there we go. Copy link. I have like 50 screens happening. Okay, get back to the chat. There we go. Oh, no, that's not right. Oh, yeah. Whoa. Okay, there's your folder. This is where we're actually going to get some of the data from, and some of it we're actually going to get from the OpenStreetMap itself. Okay, so I'm just going to bring this folder over here. You should see in that folder phoenixblocks.geojson and phoenixparks.geojson. Those are the things we're going to be working with right now. Okay, so let me bring this back over here. So, oh yeah, yours is going to look a little bit different because you don't have access like I do, but you should be able to, let me just check those instructions, hover over the name of the file, and you should see download as an option. It's not showing up for me because I'm the owner, but you will have download as an option, and then you click download both of those, or you can, download both of those to your computer. Again, just the downloads folders are fine. So I'm going to download both of these. No, not there. I need to find that folder that I set up for Mapping USA. There we go. So I downloaded Phoenix Blocks. Now I'm downloading Phoenix Parks into the same place, so I know where to find them. There we go. Okay, now I have those files downloaded. I'm using GeoJSON just because it's really easy and works with everything, but these could have been shape files. These could have been whatever, CSV files, you name it. So now we're going to use the DB Manager. That's where that DB Manager plugin comes in. So up here on QGIS, you look at my screen here, I'm clicking on Database and then DB Manager. Database and then DB Manager. And I'm going to click on PostGIS. For some reason on here it's called PostGIS. Over there it's called PostgreSQL. I don't know why, but here I'm going to expand PostGIS. I'm going to expand Mapping USA, and then I click on Public. Let me talk about what this is here. So your database is Mapping USA. That database can have tons of different things in it, different tables, all, what all the data you're working with. But we organize those into schemas. So this public is a schema, basically a folder. You can think of it like a folder. And within that folder, you're going to have tables, you're going to have all kinds of things. Right now, we don't have anything in it. So we are going to need to import our data. So I am here. Click on public to highlight it. That's what you see on this little screenshot. And then we're going to select import layer / file. Then I want to click on the 3 dots. I like to call that a kebab, kind of like the hamburger, but it's 3 little pieces of whatever on a kebab. So I need to now navigate to my documents. Where am I at? Here we go. Find where I downloaded those files, and I'm going to start by importing the Phoenix blocks.geojson. And it is going to take a moment for that to load. Okay, now notice how it filled in the table name. This is where you name your table. I already have it named with the proper format, so Phoenix _blocks, all lowercase. But if it didn't have that, I would want to rename that to kind of match the SQL style, all lowercase with the underscores. So now I'm going to if you've already tried to do this and you had some error or whatever, you're going to want to replace destination table if it exists. But if not, you can leave that blank. And then make sure you convert field names to lowercase. Again, that's just sort of the standard. Create spatial index. For some reason, it is not letting me create a spatial index. That's weird. Well, hopefully this works. I don't know why that would be. I've done this several times and I see that. Yeah, I don't know why that is. Oh gosh.
I think you need to add the PostGIS extension to the database. You can do it from the SQL panel in the database manager.
Okay.
You just had to give the SQL command in the.
Okay. So yeah, that's weird. It should have done it. You talking about this right here?
Yeah, that should
Okay.
fix it.
Let me see if that works. So if so, I'll have to kind of walk people through what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to do it real quickly. Let's try that again. That's very strange. Something went wrong there in those first steps since the last time I practiced this. So no, it won't let me create spatial index. Well, this is a problem. Check the primary key. That should no. Okay. Let me see if the parks that one works. No, I can't. I was able to do it somehow. It's not everyone will have that issue. Oh boy. Yeah, so it looks like some people are able to do it, some people are not. Okay, well. Let me see if I can refresh this. Let's see, no problem here with the spatial. Okay, so some people are able to create the spatial extension. Let me see what I have. Yeah, so there should be some things in here if I created the PostGIS extension correctly. And it looks like that's not created. So bear with me. Hopefully we can get this sorted. where we were supposed to change the record. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I think you're right. I skipped a step all the way back here. Oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this is the way things go. So I'm going to open up my PSQL again. I think it's, yeah, you're right, Nicole. It's a learning experience. So if you go back into PSQL, you're going to have to log back in with your, hopefully this does it. Gonna have to log back in. We were not in our Mapping USA database when we added that extension. So at the Postgres, after we've done, so we've already done create database Mapping USA. Now we have to actually enter the Mapping USA database. I just skipped right over that. So again, open up your SQL shell. This should have worked in the DB manager. I don't know why it didn't, but these are the steps that I skipped over. So now I have to do the create extension. Okay, yeah, I don't know if there are different ways to do it on a Mac, but you may be right there. So I'm doing the create. Oh, this says extension PostGIS already exists. Okay. Well. Okay, did it like in the instructions, Mac user. Okay, good. Let me see if I can input. I'll do the parts one because that one's smaller. Yes, okay, all right. So it looks like I got it fixed. So hopefully that will work for you as well. So I'm gonna go back. I'm actually going to start with the Phoenix blocks. I'm gonna have to move a little bit faster than I was. So yes, you're absolutely right. Running into issues leads to better learning. You are 100%. Yeah, I'm a teacher, so this kind of stuff happens to me all the time. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping around here. Okay, so I am trying to import Phoenix blocks. Here we go. So I'm going to replace destination table since I already tried to do this. Convert field names to lowercase and create spatial index. All right, so now hit OK, and we should be good to go. If this is still not working for you, that I think that little trick I did before worked. I just maybe had to close DB Manager and come back into it. So I'll just kind of show you real quickly where to insert, where to use that command. Of course, now it's running slow. This is a pretty large it's a pretty large file, and the spatial indexing takes a little bit of time. So just give it time to load. Now, here, if you click on the tool symbol, or if you go to database SQL window, here is where, as long as you're clicked on Mapping USA or clicked on public, you can enter that create extension PostGIS and then hit execute from here. Again, this is the SQL window in DB Manager, and that seemed to have been what did it before. So thank you for pointing that out to me. Okay, so now I'm going to get back to the instructions here. So we have added the Phoenix blocks. Now I'm going to add Phoenix parks the same exact way. I'm going to go to import layer / file, input, and I'm going to now choose the Phoenix parks. I'm going to convert field names to lowercase and create spatial index. The spatial index is important because when you're working with spatial data, it makes things move much, much, much faster when you're doing your queries and trying to, find things that overlap and intersect and so on. Okay, so we've got 20 minutes left. We're going to try to move through this as quickly as possible. So we have now imported our two tables, and now we want to go back to the main QGIS window and look at those things. So here I am in the main QGIS window, and down here, one of my options in the browser, I'm just going to collapse these here. One of my options down in the browser is XYZ tiles. We're going to add our good friend OpenStreetMap. You may not see all of these options, but drag OpenStreetMap down into the layers window, and that populates the OpenStreetMap map that we all know and love. And then scroll back up here and make sure you have PostgreSQL expanded, Mapping USA expanded, and Public expanded. Then you will see the two tables that we just added. First thing we're going to add is Phoenix blocks, and we're going to add that on top of OpenStreetMap. If you get these out of order, you can always drag and rearrange them, but we want our Phoenix blocks to be on top of the base map. Oop, if I can do that. There we go. And then I want to right-click on the name of the layer, the Phoenix blocks layer, and zoom to layer. And it's going to zoom me in, and of course, not seeing anything. What the heck? Why am I having these problems now? Is anyone else able to actually see their layer? There, it looks like there's stuff there. Yours shows up. Great. Well, that's good. I'm going to remove that layer and try it again, because that's not going to work very well if I can't see my data. Okay, let me try to add the Phoenix Parks layer on top of that. Also not showing up. This is very strange.
Do you have
behavior.
to zoom to the layer extent, or are you on the right spot?
Yeah, I've done that. So I can see I'm in Phoenix, and it should be zoomed to those. Okay. I've literally never, I've used QGIS hundreds of times. I've never had this problem. Anyone in the chat have any idea what I might be doing wrong? I was just using QGIS earlier today on some other project, and everything was showing up fine. Is anyone else having problems seeing? Are you not able to see? Oh, there it is. Okay. Well, what do you know? Just magically appeared. So maybe it was just taking a really long time to load. That could have been what it was. Okay, now getting back to this. My Phoenix blocks are kind of in this pinkish color. You may have a different color, but I want to have the parks in this kind of bright green color. So I'm going to double click on this little colored block next to Phoenix Parks and choose a different color. I like the sort of bright green, simple green fill. So again, double click on that little block next to Phoenix Parks and choose simple green fill from the options, hit OK. Now those parks show up in a nice bright green, so you can see where all the parks are. All right. I'm not going to have us look at the attribute table. I'm going to skip that section. And I'm going to turn off my Phoenix block. So here's an example of what one of these parks looks like. Okay, now we need to add data from OpenStreetMap. All of this is data that I added for you. So right now we're actually going to go to Overpass Turbo, which is a great place to get OSM data. And we're going to open that. And this is a tool that allows us to enter a query. And I already have this query already set for you, and I have it commented so you know what each of the things are. The comments are in red. You can just copy this whole query, put it into this left pane in Overpass, and run it. And then you'll want to it'll tell you, oh, there's a whole bunch of data. Just say continue anyway, no big deal. And then we want to zoom to data. So that's the little magnifying glass here. Zoom to data. There we go. So these are all of the swimming pools that have been mapped in Phoenix. This is by no means all of the pools in Phoenix. It's just the ones that have been mapped so far. Now we want to download. So we use the export button and download as GeoJSON. So again, in Overpass, after we've run the query and we've said continue, we're going to download. And again, I'm just going to save it to my downloads just to make it faster. And I'm going to call this, I want to rename it Phoenix Pools.geojson. Looks like I already have that saved here in my downloads, but it looks like it's gonna save me a new copy. Okay, now we're going to, now that we've downloaded the data, that's how we get the data from OpenStreetMap, and now we're gonna put that into our database. It's in GeoJSON format, but we are going to then put it into our SQL database. So go back to the DB manager, go to import layer file, find the data that we just downloaded, and let me see, that will be, for me, it was in my downloads folder. There we go. I'm gonna input that and make sure I create spatial index, convert names to lowercase. And one thing I want to point out about this query is that it turned everything into a point. So you're not going to actually see the shapes of the pools. You're just going to see points where they're located. And that's the center command at the end, out center. Okay, now we are going to actually do our analysis. I am going to run through this pretty quickly. And again, you can kind of follow along later if you need to, but we are going to add, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to close my database manager. Okay, so here is where we want to, I'm going to add those pools so we can see where they're located. All right, so they show up as little yellow dots. I'm going to change those yellow dots to blue dots, just so they look like pools. Hit OK. Now I got a bunch of blue dots on there. That's where all the pools are. Some of them are in parks, most of them are not. But we want the ones that are just in parks. So I'm going to go back to my DB manager. I'm going to go to database SQL window. This is where I'm actually typing in. Oh, sorry, I have to be in the database. Now I've closed out of it. So I'll make sure I'm in Mapping USA in public, database manager, or sorry, the SQL window is what I'm in right now. And now I have some queries. So I'm just going to, this is a very simple SQL query. I just typed it in there, or I pasted it in there, I hit execute, and this gives me information about every park in Phoenix. There's 181 parks in Phoenix, and you can see that because next to execute is 181 rows. Well, what if we want all of those parks in alphabetical order? I'm just showing you some simple SQL queries. So I'm going to hit clear, and then paste a new query, hit execute, and now it's just showing the names of all of the parks in alphabetical order. So this is what you can do with SQL, is just really narrow down on the data you want. But now what I want to do is only select the parks that have pools in them. So I'm clearing this query, pasting this new query in there, hitting execute, and now it's narrowed it down to only the 28 parks that actually have public pools, because those are the ones that we are interested in working with for figuring out where people live, whether they live within a certain distance of the pools. So here, what we're going to do is a buffer. A buffer will create an area around a certain point or polygon that's the size that we want it to be. We're going to choose 800 meters. That's about half a mile. That's a reasonable walking distance. So this is going to create 1 mile or half mile radius buffers around each of those pools. So I'm just copying that from the document, pasting it in here. I hit execute after I've cleared it. Nothing shows up on here because all I've done is create the layer, and there's nothing going to show up in the window down here. But if I go back up here and I refresh my Mapping USA, maybe refresh, there we go. I see pool buffers is one of my layers. I'm going to drag that down here, and now I see these big buffer zones around all of the pools that were in public parks. How cool is that? Now, I want to go back into DB Manager. It might take a while, Nicole. Try another refresh. It might just take a minute for you to get that to work. So I'm going to clear, and I'm going to put this new. So right now, I just want to figure out how many people live in Phoenix. So that's what this query is. So it's select the sum of the population of all of those Phoenix blocks. So those blocks, I didn't mention this before, but each block has the population of the people that live within that block. So it's going to add up all the populations for every single block, hit execute, and this is as of when I think this is from the 2020 census. So about 1.65 million people live in Phoenix. So now we want to know what percentage of those 1.65 million people actually live within half a mile of a public pool. I have not commented on this query because it's pretty complicated, but I was afraid I wouldn't have enough time, but I can kind of walk through what it's doing after we've done it. I know I had to rush through some of those things because of our technical difficulties, but I'm going to copy this query. I'm going to clear this query out, paste in here. I'm not going to execute this because I want you to drop in the chat what the answer is. What percentage of Phoenix residents live within half a mile of a public pool? Put that number in the chat for me. All right. Remember, I asked you in the beginning what percentage you think that number would be. Okay, yeah, so it's about 9.44%. So I'm going to go ahead and execute it, and you can see that it's given you that number. So let's kind of break down what this is doing. So this with populations within buffers, this is basically saying we're going to call this new table or view or whatever, not really either of those things, but we're going to call this thing population within buffers. And then what we're doing is selecting that population within those blocks from the Phoenix blocks table. This is our table, and what we usually do is assign an alias to these tables with just a single letter or maybe a couple letters. So we're calling Phoenix blocks table B. So it's saying, give me table B, all of the IDs from table B, and then give me the population of every block from table B, which again is the Phoenix blocks. And then the block layer, remember, is different from the pool layer. It's different from the park layer. So we have to tell it, well, which population do we want? So we have to join those pool buffers that we created, which we're calling PB, that's our alias. And we're using an intersect command here, or function. So that's anything from the pool buffer layer that intersects with the block layer. We're going to only include those things that are within those particular blocks that have that intersection. And we're calling those unique blocks. Sometimes there's more than one pool in a park, so I've set it up so that it doesn't count any of the blocks more than one time. That's why they're unique blocks. And then we're going to create the total population as the population from the Phoenix blocks. And then that's that number, that 6.5 million that we calculated before. And then basically this is all just the math. Just take the people that live within the pool areas, the pool buffers, divided by the total, and then I have a rounding function there just so that it rounds it to 2 decimal places. So we've divided those and by 100, divided them and then multiplied by 100 and rounded to 2 places. This may seem scary. This may look like a really complicated query, but I tell you, you can do it because, again, I didn't start learning this stuff until like June or July of 2024, and now I can look at this and pretty much understand where it is. But if you get stuck with any of it, with ChatGPT and other AI tools are really good at figuring out helping you with these queries. So it looks like we got 6 minutes left. Hold on a second. I'm just going to close this door. Okay. Anybody have any quick questions or comments before we move on to our next sessions? I appreciate you all being here and helping, as we struggle through all of these issues. Hopefully you can see some ways that this might apply to your work, interests that you have. Again, you can figure out which city has the most pizza joints on the map. You can figure out, any kind of spatial Okay, I see some stuff in the chat that might be helpful to people. Yeah, so I see some, so you can maybe drop in the chat if you can think of a way that you could use this, or even unmute and just share. Can you see this being useful in some work that you're doing, or things that you're interested in? Yes, so it is recording. I hope it's still recording.
It is. I can stop right now.
Okay, yeah, you can go ahead and stop. Thank you.